Welcome. I'm Brenda Murray. This is Studio 56. Welcome to my interview with the lovely, the amazing, the incomparable Stephanie Bauer, who is, I've met her many times in person, and she is actually a really lovely person. And I'm so excited to be interviewing Stephanie today about her new book called The World of Urban Sketching. And it is a tome. So if you don't know Stephanie is an illustrator, a teacher, and an author, and a fabulous urban sketcher and an avid traveler. Welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you, Brenda.
And the crowd goes wild. So Stephanie, we're going to talk about your new book, The World of Urban Sketching, which is a gorgeous, gorgeous book. It's super thick. How many pages?
240.
Good for you. I knew you would.
Oh, believe me, I know.
Yeah, and it's a shiny, glossy cover, really beautiful pages, gorgeous sketches on the inside. And we'll talk briefly about the fact that this is sort of volume 2. Would you call it volume 2, Stephanie?
Well, originally it was going to be called The Art of Urban Sketching Volume 2 as a sequel to the one that Gabby wrote 10 years ago. But about a month, it didn't take long, a month into the research for this book, I realized it needed a different name because I was charged by the publisher to do a kind of an update 10 years later since The Art of Urban Sketching was released. And if we were going to look at what has changed in 10 years, it's in fact that urban sketching has spread, like a virus around the world. And so I asked them, can we change the title to The World of Urban Sketching? And they said, sure. So it became The World of Urban Sketching. But essentially it is The Art of Urban Sketching Volume 2.
Right. And so it's not the same artists necessarily, not the same contributors in the book, right?
No, in fact, I made an effort to find new artists, and if people had their work shown in the first book, then in general I didn't put them in the second book because it's to show what's changed. Although I did take a handful of people and do a feature with them called Then and Now, where cool. We show a sketch that was done 10 years ago and a sketch now.
And have they improved?
What?
Have they improved?
Yeah, they talk about and then they write about what they've learned along the way, which is really interesting to see. So yeah, and then I to find people for the book, I basically quit my job for about 3 months. Okay. And to do the research and start collecting images for this book. And that was in March of 2021. So it's 20 months ago. And it's been about 14 to 16 months of work writing it. But finding people was really fun because it was during the depths of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And everyone was stuck at home and I was stuck at home, and I just went on the internet every day for very long days and nights, 7 days a week, looking for sketchers that I could put into this book. And I was looking for really the best sketchers I could find, although there are tons of really fantastic sketchers that I was not able to put in the book. And but there are only a limited number of pages. As it is, I squeezed in more people than I probably should have. But it was interesting. I mean, I looked different ways. I started with the list of USK chapters on the Urban Sketchers website.
Yeah.
And started laboriously going through those. I combed Instagram and Facebook and the individual, I went to Paris Urban Sketchers and their blog on whatever platform it was.
Right.
I also wrote to sketchers and said, send me the names of 10 of your favorite sketchers. And that was interesting because a lot of people's favorites are not, in fact, urban sketchers.
Oh,
So you
really?
might see their work on Instagram and think, oh my gosh, look at that sketch. But it's in fact a studio sketch.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people do sketching in their studios, in their offices.
Yeah.
And I really,
Particularly at the time of COVID.
yeah, well, that's true. But I really, I wrote people and I said, look, I know you're stuck at home, so you can send me work, recent work from before the pandemic hit. But it was challenging at times to figure out if they were a true urban sketcher, meaning they went out and sketched on location and that was their primary focus, or if they were sketching in studio. And so I asked everybody, like, was this sketch done on location? And because in order to tag officially, to tag urban sketchers or USK, it's supposed to be a sketch done on location. But it
Right.
took a little espionage to try and figure out who those folks were. And also, I had to sort of draw a line between plein air painters who also work on location and urban sketchers. And because this book is really about urban sketching, not about plein air painting. So I had to occasionally ask people, like, how do you distinguish between plein air painters and urban sketchers? And I got kind of a variety of answers, but what I settled on was, I think plein air painters are maybe, this is a gross generalization, mind you, so I'm going to probably get in trouble for this. But
I know.
I think plein air painters maybe are trying to create a really kind of a perfect or beautiful piece of art. And urban sketchers are all about capturing the experience.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't turn out to be a fantastic sketch, like the most beautiful thing you've ever seen, so be it. It's captured the experience.
Right.
And to me, that is the power of urban sketching. It's about sketching the experience. It's not about creating a perfect piece of art. It's about capturing the experience.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we open up so people can see? We have a show and tell. And if you've just joined the call now, we'll let you know that we have something very special here in this jar, and that is all of your names. And we're going to do a draw at the end of this call for your free copy of this book. Very exciting, mailed directly from the publisher. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. So we're going to do a draw at the end of this call. So stay tuned. And right now, Stephanie, you and I are going to turn off our cameras, and I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to show some pages from inside the book.
And I will continue to talk.
Yes. And if people have questions, they can type them in the Q&A box at the bottom, and we will be happy to answer them. Okay, and this is the beautiful cover. Who's on the cover here, Stephanie?
I love this cover. Well, let's see. This is Dharman Sudarman Angir, aka Dharman Sketcher. The sketch he did in Bali in the upper left. That is Eleanor Doty on the right. She's from Seattle. I love her work. It's very much influenced by Japanese anime. Oh my God, I can't believe you're going to ask me this. I'm just already blanking on the name. All right. And then it is João Albergaria, who's Portuguese but lives in Denmark, doing the boats. He does fantastic kind of extreme angle views of things. And then the amazing Rob Sketcherman, who is sketched on an iPad he's in Hong Kong. Lower left is my sketch. The morning waking up. That's my spot from breakfast in Varanasi, India. And I try throughout the book, I try and show a lot of photos like this that show the sketch on location, because I really I'm really wanting to emphasize the fact that these are all sketches done on location. So wherever possible, I tried to show photos of the sketch in their context. Then this is Ben Luke, also from Hong Kong. He's an amazing sketcher, and I love his food sketching. He's going to teach a workshop at the symposium in Auckland in April on food sketching, and I wish I could take it.
Oh, I love sketching food. It's one of my favorite things.
Yeah,
It's one of the inner pages of the book.
This is actually the table of contents, and it shows, all the cities that are represented in the book, and it covers a lot of the world.
It does. That's super cool. And it was like this in the first book as well, I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then, so this is the preface, and I wanted to actually read a little bit about it, or read a little bit from the preface. I was thinking how people who do book signings and things often read from their books. So I'm going to read from my book too.
Okay.
Because it kind of sets up the whole thing. So it starts with, it was April 15th, 2019, the day that the iconic Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris was on fire. I sat at home in Seattle watching the events unfold on television with tears streaming down my face and wondering, why was I crying about the loss of a building so far away? It was when I shared a sketch online later that day that it hit me. Looking at this sketch of Notre Dame's dramatic interior triggers a flood of memories. Sure, I can recall the soaring spaces and Gothic architecture, but I also hear the music of the Mass, the quiet whisper of the people around me, even feel the cool air. You see, to create a sketch, you have to be so focused and look so closely at what you're drawing that not just the subject, but the entire experience imprints onto your brain. In sketching Notre Dame one rainy day in 2013, it had become part of my DNA. As the building burned, I was crying because I was losing a dear friend, one that I had gotten to know very well. I hear stories like this from sketchers all over the world. Sketching is powerful because it's not about creating a perfect piece of art. It's about documenting an experience. Whether you're sketching a famous landmark or the barista who made your latte in your neighborhood cafe, or even documenting the mess in your basement during a global pandemic, all are snapshots of our lives that hold a profound personal meaning. In sketching, you are creating a record of your life. So again, I think that's what's so powerful. In fact, I have goosebumps.
Yeah.
I read it because it's so powerful. And as we go through the book, I mean, the book is full of people talking about their personal experiences and the things they observe. And I mean, it's an amazing thing to read and see them document their aspects of their daily lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool. That's very cool. I mean, it's why we love urban sketching, right? It's you are documenting a certain place and time, and you're in that place and time, and that's why sketching from life is I think more powerful, but also just so much more fun if you can do it. And now here in Canada, my urban sketching is sort of a spring, summer, fall thing.
Yeah,
it's really urban sketching in the winter is, well, it's just really not even possible in certain times. So, I mean, there might be a few odd days where you could run out for a quick second, but
that's probably why you travel. So,
yeah.
So like on the cover, this is the photo that I took of the sketch on location. And it sets up the tour. Basically, the language in the book is about taking a tour and taking a trip. And it says, buckle up, let's go on a tour of the world through the work of over 150 urban sketchers from nearly every corner of the globe.
This is such a great photo too. You can see the tooth in the paper. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So nice. Beautiful. It's a beautiful sketch, Stephanie, really. And people, if you have questions for Stephanie about her book, please post them in the Q&A box and we'd be happy to answer them. And I love this sketch. I think it's fantastic. When I looked at it at first, I honestly, I thought, my very first glance, I thought it was the lagoon in Venice.
Mm.
And then I looked at again, of course, and saw that it wasn't.
Mhm.
But that's a really great angle that you've captured here. It's beautiful.
Mhm. Well, it was amazing to watch the Ganges wake up in the morning.
Yes.
So then the tour, so nestled on the water between two mountain ranges, picturesque Seattle is not only the birthplace of urban sketchers, its wealth of amazing sketchers also makes it the perfect place to start our sketching world tour. So on this page, I have Andika Morandi, Stephen Reddy, who lives down the street from me, and Sue Heston. And each has a different style, a different approach. They're all prolific sketchers. And, one of the things that, so the book is set up with a get to know section where I write a little bit about the sketcher. And then I tried to put photos for almost everybody who's featured in the book. And I actually wrote to two people, two local Seattle urban sketchers, and asked, should I include the photos or not? And they both wrote back, and this is Kate M.K. Buick. I'm sure I'm saying her name wrong, and I've known her for years, and Tina Koyama. And I said, should I include the photos? And they said, absolutely, because that's how people connect to the artist.
Yeah.
So I tried to show a picture for just about everybody. And another thing that I did is I asked people about their aha moments. And you can see there's one from Sue Heston there. And you just read it because her aha moment was seeing Gabby Campanario's drawings in the Seattle Times newspaper changed my whole outlook on drawing. I realized there was great stuff to be drawn everywhere and began to use my sketchbooks in a whole new way. So we influence each other, we inspire each other, and that's what this book is all about.
Wow, that's super cool. And so Gail has written, and she says she agrees with you, Stephanie. Sketching is all about experiencing the moment. Remember the time in the Pratt power plant? I might say I'm most likely your first sketching student. Amazing, thank you.
Oh, how about that? All right, thanks.
We're nice. All right, move down to one more. And Wendy is asking, she's just wondering if this is a display, like a coffee table book or a learning book. Both are great, but she's wondering if this one is more about technique.
It is both. So I'll show a little bit about technique in a minute, but this is Paul Heaston, the fabulous Paul Heaston. And he is an example of then and now. So he is in the first book, but I wanted to show how his abilities and style have changed from 10 years ago. So the upper two images are in fact from 10 years ago, and the lower two images are more like what he does now. And the then and nows are actually really important to me because they connect back to Gabby's book. And
well, he used to be much more of a hatcher, didn't he?
Well, he still is, but he does a lot of ink washes as well. And he can actually also paint in color really, really well, but that's not what he does in his sketches, interestingly enough.
No.
Yeah, he's a wonderful painter. So I wanted to read a little bit about this, about Paul. It says, then and now, Paul Heaston. I met Paul so occasionally I write a little bit of my experience with individual sketchers. I met Paul for the first time at the 2014 USK Symposium in Paraty, Brazil. A group of us stumbled upon this lone guy sketching the hilly favelas. So we asked to see his tiny sketchbook. As he turned each page, our eyes grew wider and wider. Every sketch was a jaw-dropping masterpiece. You can really see the evolution in Paul's amazing sketches, both in his use of ink and markers, and especially with the development of more challenging perspectives. When asked how his work has evolved in 10 years, Paul reflects, as far as change, I've gotten much more confident and capable. I'm the same in that I still can take a very long time to work, and I'm obsessed with tiny bits of information and large fields of view. And of course, it's all still jaw-dropping.
Yeah, he's a great guy, an amazing sketcher.
He is.
Yeah. And so Diane is asking, and I think this is going back to my comments about the tooth of your sketchbook. She wants to know what watercolor sketchbook you use.
I use?
Yeah.
Oh, I have for years I've used the Pentalic watercolor, Pentalic Aqua Journal in a 5x8 size. Lately, I've been using the Hahnemühle 100% cotton. I'm still trying to figure out what all I can do on it, but in general, I like it. And I also have an Escoda sketchbook that I'm getting used to as well. Painting on different sketchbooks is a little different. You know, the way the paper takes the paint and things really changes.
Yeah, so that's really true.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to just click now. So Kate says she would have thought food sketches are more still life than urban sketch. She says Liz Steele never posts her tea sketches in USK social media unless the food sketch contains some of the place for context.
That is true. I think, you know, strict urban sketchers guidelines would probably consider it still life, but I've just found that food sketching is so fun and tells you so much about the culture and the experience, and that I included in this book because and was my decision to do it. I just think it was really important to include. Sometimes people put something of the background, and I suppose that technically follows the manifesto to the letter, but I find that people stretch that manifesto a little bit, and I think that there are times that that's okay, and food sketching is one of those. So
I agree with you. Yeah, I think especially if you're in a cafe and you've ordered lunch, you're definitely on location. You're not even in your own home. And,
exactly. It's not like it's in a studio setting and you've propped up a pear. So
yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. All right. So sprinkled throughout the book are these spotlight sections where I take a specific topic and then show examples around that specific topic. And I use these also as an opportunity to teach something. You know, I've been a teacher for so many years, I can't help myself, but I have to teach something at all times. So, so this is one of the spotlight sections, and I write, these vertigo-inducing views encourage you to look up, down, or all around. Their extreme angles create a sense of movement in space, and you feel as if you are sitting right next to the sketcher. So how do these kinds of sketches work? So these extreme spotlight sections are in general 4 pages long. This is 2 of those pages, and I show a little diagram of Hugo Costa's sketch looking up. So those are on the left are all examples of perspectives looking up, and then on the right, those are all examples of perspectives looking down.
Yeah,
and
super cool. I
love
drawing extremes.
So the book isn't really a how-to book, but it does include elements of process and how people do things. I also, if you go to the next page.
Well, let's see if it will let me. There we go.
So for some people, this is Josiah Hanchett, and I've loved his drawings for a long time. And so I do show kind of a 3-step process for him. I also add tips under the individual descriptions of the sketches. So like this, I love this sketch of the Christmas tree. And the tip that he wrote about it was, try your best not to be overwhelmed by all the detail at the beginning. I found that outlining the objects helps me fill out the page correctly, and then I can add as much detail as I want. And then for each sketch, I took great pains actually to write down the size of the sketch and also every tool that was used in making it. So instead of just saying watercolor,
Yeah.
for the most times I'll say Winsor & Newton watercolors, Daniel Smith watercolors. Here, Escoda brushes, Moleskine sketchbook. You used a white Sakura gel Rolly pen. So I put as much detail as they sent me, and I had to poke them sometimes to send specific detail, because I thought it would be really important for people to know exactly how these sketches are made. And that's part of the educational aspect of the book too.
I think, I think exposing yourself to other people's art, especially as urban sketchers, you'll learn so much, really.
Yeah,
It's really very helpful. And I think people have learned a lot just from the Urban Sketchers Facebook page and the website.
that's
Scrolling
true.
through, you see things and you go, wow, I could do it like that. And you just
Yeah.
really learn a lot. So
And that's such a good point. And to that end, I've added little things in addition to tips. I'll put notes about the process, or like in this middle image on the right-hand side of David Morales, I wrote, notice David's sketches are loaded with emotion as he captures places and people he loves. And on others, I'll be very specific about technique, other of those notices, because I want people to actually look, not just sort of flip through it, but really look at the work. And so by pointing certain things out, I'm hoping it'll encourage people to really look carefully at the images.
yeah, I'm really glad that you included these sketches, this page by David Morales, because I'm going to be interviewing David Morales on Tuesday, November the 29th at 1:00 New York time. And I hope, if you haven't got your ticket already, I know a lot of people here already have a ticket. If you haven't got one yet, you should really go to the website at studio56boutique.com and get your free ticket.
Yeah, I mean, he's fantastic. I just met him in Barcelona, where he lives now, and but his home is Colombia, and he's an incredible artist. He's so fast, and he's an architect, and he uses his drawings for sketching.
He's really great. And so this is the kind of art that we're going to be looking at during that interview.
That's
excited. Beautiful
page.
page.
I just wanted to read one little thing about, again, about the emotional aspects of sketching. So I included a sketch that he calls Papa.
Yes. Oh, sorry.
He wrote, I do not get to see my dad as much as I would like. He had always painted, but for some reason he wasn't doing it lately. That day he sat to paint in front of me at his house. So I decided to sketch him, thinking that is exactly how I want to remember him forever.
Oh,
so,
nice.
we capture these moments in a sketch. It's so powerful.
Yeah. I noticed from the sketches that he's already sent me for the interview that he had a couple of his dad. And I thought, that's just so nice. He obviously has a close relationship with his dad. Lovely.
Yeah. And, people sent so much beautiful work. I think, I did the layouts for the book as well. And my intention with the layouts is that as you turn each page, you get a surprise, or like like a kind of a gasp at the work that you see on the next page, because that is what I experienced. I would sometimes cold call via Instagram or Facebook message people, and I'd have to explain who I was and what I was doing, so that they didn't think that I was like, it wasn't a phishing message or spam or something.
Right.
And I'd say, please contact me. And then I'd ask, logistically managing this and putting all this together was unbelievable. It tested my limits of my abilities to manage and organize things, to the limit. So I would say, yeah, please send me, 10 to 15 or more examples of your work. And people would send me their work, as JPEGs or screenshots. And I'd sit at my computer and I'd open it up and I would literally gasp at the work that they sent. And or burst out laughing because it was just absolutely breathtaking. And this the page you're on right now, by Dwa, the work by Dwa is one of those pages. I saw his work and I just was like, oh my gosh, he has to be in this book. And just people were so generous and sent just the most breathtaking work. It was incredible. It was so anyway, I tried to kind of replicate that experience a little bit. So the layouts are different from page to page, depending on what kinds of sketches and the formats people sent. But I wanted people to have that same experience that I had as I got there, as they sent me their work.
This is lovely work. I really love the light coming in the window and the softer lines through the bottle of water.
I know, isn't it beautiful?
Gorgeous.
I know
Yeah.
these are really powerful sketches, and Dwa is I wrote with no art school on Madagascar. Dwa is a self-taught artist and comic book author. He started drawing comics as a child, which got him started sketching on location. In 2015, he sketched to keep record of the last months spent with his dad, and he's never stopped sketching since.
Wow. Wonderful. And Mario is made a comment. He said, it's irrelevant maybe, but I think it's a beautiful page layout design.
Oh, thank you. That's nice. I tried to get images as large as possible, with the handbooks of, I've done 2 of those. The only complaints that I ever got from those books was that the font was too tiny and too light. And so from day one, when the publisher contacted me about doing this book, I said, okay, I'll do it, but we have to make the fonts bigger and darker. And they agreed, and I pushed all the way through the making of this book to make sure that it was very legible and people could really see the information. But I tried to get images as large as possible, and which brings us to Noel Okello in Nairobi, Kenya. And I had originally allotted one space for one of his sketches. And I, wrote him, and he sent me back a whole stack of sketches. And when I saw them and read the text on them, I just thought, oh my God, I'm going to have to rearrange everything and give him a double page spread, because I find his work just amazing. Not only does he draw well, he's a poet. And the words that he writes on his sketches and about his sketches are absolutely amazing. And if you look at these scenes, they are just like very ordinary street scenes, parking garages, parking lots, freeways, just very everyday settings. And he just uses this simple pad, spiral bound pad, and the simplest of all sketches, a Bic pen.
Yeah.
Which is in fact in New York's Museum of Modern Art, a tool shown in the Museum of Modern Art, if you can believe it.
Wow.
But I love his work. And if you look closely, look at the one with the cow. And I'm going to read this part. He says, a town south of Nairobi. Oh, I wrote this part. A town south of Nairobi, Noel says that the Maasai still bring their livestock through Kitengela while searching for pasture and water. Midst busy traffic and no traffic lights, Noel discovered a lone cow mooing in the middle of the chaos. And he writes, I stood and wondered what the cow could be communicating through her impassioned moos. And then the history of Kitengela came to me, and the drastic change that has occurred from the days it was open savanna country to today's crowded town flooded my mind. It occurred to me that she could have been communicating something about that.
Yeah, maybe.
I just love it. I have goosebumps again.
Yeah.
I mean, just the stories and what people write are just amazing. Anyway,
It's super
I'm so
cool.
grateful for his
Yeah.
contribution. It's one of my favorite spreads in the entire book.
Very cool. Super cool that people tell you, that give you this information, tell you these things about their sketches.
Yeah.
I love that.
This is another one that tells a story. This is Terry Chehab. He's from Beirut, Lebanon, and his sketches all tell. You can see that the little dotted line all the way around the perimeter of the spread that indicates that it's a story. And these are all sketches about the explosion that happened in the port of Beirut. And if you look at Terry's grandma's story, he wrote, Terry recalls, and in quotes, "This was the first encounter with my grandmother 24 hours after the Beirut port's explosion. We were at her house a few hours before, trying to save all her and my uncle's personal belongings, as their apartment got severely damaged and there were no doors or windows left. It was facing the port. They both miraculously survived. My uncle was transferred to the hospital and my grandma was evacuated to a safer place. She was still in shock, tired and in pain. She sat on a divan and started telling us her version of the story. At first, I hesitated to draw her in these conditions, but then I thought it was a necessity. Today she's gone, and I'm so glad that I sketched her."
Wow.
So again, really powerful sketches.
Yeah.
He's so brave to basically do reportage sketching of that explosion and how it affected his city.
And Rohit comments, the stories add so much value to the sketches. Wonderful.
That's nice. Is that Rohit in India?
It is Rohit in India. The last name is Kulkarni.
Yes, it is. Oh my gosh. Hi. It's so nice to have you here. That's awesome.
Here we have Lapan.
Yes, he sent, so he's another then and now, and he sent, just the most incredible sketches, right? He can do it all. He can do people and buildings, and he's got color and pen work and amazing perspective views. He can do it all. He was featured in the first book. So I include him as a then and now. And I wrote him and said, what do you think about one image really big across the pages? And he's like, sure, go for it. So in the lower right is one from roughly 10 years ago. And then you can see how he's evolved to doing the technique that he has now, which is just so beautiful. And I asked him, why do you use this lined paper? And I put it here. I also often include what people's favorite tools are. So Lapan's favorite tool is his signature lined paper. Since 2004, Lapan sketches in vintage accounting books that he finds at flea markets. He likes this paper because it reminds me of science expeditions of the 18th century by Cook or La Pérouse, and I'm sure I said that incorrectly, who brought back the first paintings of some unknown nation, culture, or species. I still secretly wish to become an explorer.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, I love that.
This is a very tough sketch that he did because there's so much detail, and it would be so easy to get lost in because it's a round spire, and then there's different pieces, just so many parts to it. So it's really incredible. Do you know, Lapan is the very first urban sketcher I found online 10 years ago when I became an urban sketcher. And I saw his work and I thought, wow, he did this from life. I found my people.
Yeah.
Really. And so then, I launched Urban Sketchers chapter in Kitchener-Waterloo, Ontario, Canada. And I'm hoping to launch another one in Niagara region. And it's just, people who like to sketch outdoors. They're a unique group and I love them, and super wonderful to meet them and find people who enjoy the same thing that you enjoy.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
This is a spread from the section on COVID sketches, right? I was like, I have to include COVID drawings. In some ways, they epitomize what urban sketching is all about. And yet, a lot of people like to sketch when they go out around their town or when they travel. And when the pandemic hit, and the lockdowns hit, everyone had to immediately pivot and change their focus and figure out, what kind of urban sketching can I do, sitting in my living room. Or I love the sketch on the cover by Martine and from Paris. And it's one of my favorite sketches in the entire book. And it's on the back cover. And she did a sketch sitting while lying in her bathtub. And she shows the bathtub and her feet and the sketchbook. And I just thought, this is perfect. And she did it during COVID. So there are a lot of sketches in the book that were done during COVID, because it affected everyone in the world.
Yeah, and it would
For
have
a
to be.
long period of time. So this is a spread that focuses on the USK talks that were done. And I wrote, Rising to the New Challenges, a dedicated team from the Urban Sketchers organization figured out ways to keep the global community connected and inspired by creating a weekly series of Instagram live interviews called USK Talks. Usually hosted by the smooth radio DJ voice of Rob Sketcherman. If you've ever heard him, because his voice can put you into a trance.
Yes.
Sketcherman in Hong Kong. Each episode brought interviews with sketchers around the globe who shared different topics and presented a weekly sketching challenge. These clever prompts range from paint what you bake, celebrate the good times, and the same view, different hours, to documenting a typical pandemic day and more. USK Talks not only gave us a peek into the daily lives of fellow sketchers around the world, they assured us that no matter where we were united in facing the same challenges. Together, we could get through this.
Cool. Well, it did. It was very helpful listening to those USK talks. And
yeah, and I love these. And Doreen Hollywood from the UK on the lower right. She literally documented her day through sketching. This kind of goes back to the question about food too. These are all kind of just items, but it's absolutely urban sketching. And I think some of the kind of the restrictor guidelines loosened quite a bit during COVID. And I think that was healthy for urban sketching, that it grew a little broader in terms of what you could consider an urban sketch. Here, Manish's desktop and a sketch from the screen by Arnaud de Meyer from Luxembourg. Anyway, and Mike Daikubara did his talk on celebrating the good times, and he celebrated by sketching as the birthday cake made by his wife.
That looks like a good cake.
Yeah, it does.
And John is just asking, what does the USK stand for? It stands for Urban Sketchers, and they've always done it with a capital U, capital S, and a small K. And that's what it is.
Yep, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next one. So this is another one of the spotlight sections. This is one on people. And this is a spread from that section. And of course, I'm have to be teaching again. So I show an example of looking down, talk about it, an example of looking up, and then an example of looking at eye level, and then other sketches of people.
Very nice. And so I have a question for you, Stephanie. What did you really learn in the process of putting together this book?
Whoa, that's a question for the end of this discussion.
Okay, you can think about it. You can think about it. It's coming.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, what did I learn? Ask me again when we get through it, because I would love to answer that. Anyway, another one of the spotlight sections is on the Urban Sketcher Symposium in Amsterdam. So, it's interesting. Urban Sketchers with capital U, capital S is in fact Urban Sketchers, the organization. And I contacted them. In fact, the first thing I did was I contacted the then president and vice president of Urban Sketchers and talked to them about this book. And because I had some basic questions about, what is urban sketching? What is, what's important to show? And it was super helpful speaking with them. And so there are times when I talk about urban sketchers, capital U, capital S. And then there are times when I talk about urban sketchers, all lowercase. And that's the community of urban sketchers around the world. The capital letters refer to the organization. But I wanted to include events, some urban sketching events, because that's something that has happened and really grown during the 10 years since the first book came out. And so I wanted to show Amsterdam. For one, I taught at that symposium, so I attended it and I could write about it. And I love also that picture that shows the enormous size of the crowd. I mean, it's when you see all those people, you realize, oh my God, this is a global phenomenon. Look at all those people.
Mhm.
And then I organized it a little bit, like on the right are all images of windmills, the iconic windmill to Holland. So anyway, it was really fun to write about and show these examples. And it also happened to be the hottest days on record in Amsterdam.
It was
Perfect
scorching
timing, right?
hot.
We were all just trying not to pass out in the heat.
Yeah, I swam in the canals.
Oh my God.
I jumped in the canal because there was no air conditioning. We were
That's
staying on a
hysterical.
boat. We were staying on a boat in the canal, and there was no air conditioning, and I didn't even have a bathing suit.
Wow, Brenda, you go, girl.
Desperate times call for desperate measures.
Indeed.
Anyway, but yeah, there were like, I think the Urban Sketchers symposiums attract something about 500 participants, and about,
Well, this one actually had closer to 800, 900.
is that right?
Yes, and that includes that's just the people who registered. More people show up and just sketch or
Yeah.
go on the sketch crawls. And so yeah, there are very well attended events. I'm going to be teaching at the Urban Sketcher Symposium in Auckland. So I'm really excited about that. I've already bought my ticket, and that's going to be a blast because it's going to bring people from all over that part of the world to Auckland, New Zealand.
Cool. Super
And
fun.
speaking of that part of the world, kind of that part of the world is this next sketcher, Yoji Kato. And I enlisted the help of my friend Naoya White and Jing Zhang in Chicago. Naoya is here in Seattle. Naoya helped me with the Japanese sketchers. And Jing, or people call her Jenny, also helped me with sketchers in China. She even set up a Zoom call so we could all see each other and talk to each other. And she did all the translating. Both of them went above and beyond to help me get sketchers from those countries into the book. And I have to say, I attended I taught at a local, kind of a regional sketchers symposium in Taichung, Taiwan, called AsiaLink. And it really opened up my eyes to the breadth and depth of sketchers on the other side of the world from me. I mean, I think I think sometimes events or when people write about things or the sketchers that we see online, it tends to be kind of Euro or US centric. And I really wanted to make sure that all parts of Asia had a very strong representation in this book. For one, the growth. I mean, I think the biggest chapters in the world are in fact in that part of the world, biggest urban sketching chapters. And the talent is immense. It's just incredible. So one of those people is in fact Yoji Kato, who is has a career in computer systems development. And he didn't start sketching till he was 50 years old. And he wrote, I mean, I love his sketches. And He I love his style. It's very loose. I don't know, somehow it picks up the flavor of Japan so beautifully. But he wrote a very personal story. And I thought, should I include that? And I wrote him and asked, I said, would you be okay if I include this story? And he said yes. So I wrote it, and here it is, Yoji's story, or actually he wrote it, and it was translated by Naoi. Thank you, Naoi. My family is a relative of the potter Tokuro Kato, a living national treasure. During World War II, my mother saw the plight of Tokuro's wife in poverty. She gave rice, etc. to them. Since then, I, who loved painting, was told that art would make my family unhappy and was made to promise not to pursue that path. I kept my promise, and after the 3rd anniversary of my mother's death, I started painting, thinking that it would be okay. It was my starting point at age 50.
Wow.
Okay, I'm literally tearing up. I find it so moving. I mean, pairing the stories with the drawings is, oh my gosh, I love it. I love this book. I sat in preparation for this talk. Yet I sat with the book yesterday and was going through it, and it had been quite a while since I had looked at it. And oh my God, I love this book.
You did such a great job, really putting
Oh,
it together.
thank you. All right, so now we're on to South Korea. This is Ham, and Ham Hyungmi, and she did the most. For one, everybody should follow her. She is an amazing sketcher, and she's one of my all-time favorites in the world. And she did the most fantastic job. She has some sketches in the COVID section too, but these are all COVID sketches that she did. And I just thought she captured, together with the ones in the COVID section, like she captured the feeling of the isolation and the being stuck at home and living with all your clutter. And then she ventured out, and the emptiness and the people sitting by themselves with masks. She just captured the feel of the pandemic so perfectly. And she's just a wonderful sketcher.
Mhm.
So I really encourage everyone to follow her. Then one of my favorite spreads is by Alien Bin. This is an example of how I tried to change the layout based on the work that people sent.
Right.
So in that sense, it is a little different from the first book. But I love his sketches. They're so funny, and he does these just vertical stacks. He also does horizontal and other shape sketches too, but I like the story that all the vertical spreads tell. And he uses kind of limited punches of color, a lot of ink, and he starts at the bottom, and you can see in one of them, or two of them, he shows his own sketchbook and him drawing, and then it goes all the way up to the sky or the upper levels of the buildings. And I just love the sense that he captures of his hometown. Then for some sketchers, I wanted to kind of highlight the fact that they really do travel the world and draw all over the world. What an amazing privilege and opportunity that is, right? To be able to do that. In fact, I'm in the book as a world travel sketcher as well. Also, Suhita Shirodkar, who I have a collection of markets from around the world. Certainly Ben, Captain Tom, out of Ottawa, and Luis Simoes. And it's interesting once people go beyond their hometown to see what they observe in the world, and how they have a thirst for seeing the world and capturing what they see and experience in a sketch. Again, it goes back to the experience. And Rob, of course, is unbelievably talented. He's also self-taught, which is incredible. He can draw beautifully and paint beautifully as well with classical tools, but his tool of choice is an iPad, and he uses Procreate.
Mhm.
And he can do it all. He draws people, places, buildings, festivals, and he's such a wonderful, humble
He
guy.
is. He's super
Just
fun.
he's wonderful, and he has that hypnotic voice. So, but I love this one in the upper right hand corner
Oops, sorry.
where he did the cabbie cockpit. Caught in a traffic jam, Rob remembers that his eye was suddenly drawn to the many phones on the dashboard.
Oh my
My
God.
eye then bounced to the collection of tchotchkes, and what was initially frustration at being late became glee as I pulled my iPad out to draw the scene. I've never resented traffic jams since.
That's great.
Classic urban sketcher style, right? You take something that's a challenge that would deter other people, but it just, challenges them to switch things up and do something different. So this is Richard Briggs in Australia. I think he's a genius. He is an architect, but a lot of what he does. So on the left-hand side, you see his exquisite, beautifully crafted and edited line drawings. And I love his aha moment because it says, I think a special breakthrough was realizing that by not sketching everything I saw, could mean that I could be more playful and focused on a particular message I'd like the sketch to convey. So he does that exceptionally well. But what he also does is he does drawings with painter's tape. And
Wow.
he plants them, in various spots around the city. And it's all about engaging the public, and when you stumble upon them, as I have in Amsterdam, when he taught at the symposium in Amsterdam, it's like finding a treasure. And I like to call him Banksy with a roll of tape.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anybody knows the work of Banksy.
Yeah.
And but again, the goal, it's not just to look at a sketch, but his sketches seek to engage the viewer with their environment. And he does it in such a clever way. I can't say enough wonderful things about him. I think he is a genius.
Hmm. Super
Love
cool.
his work. Yeah.
He's lovely. I've interviewed him. I interviewed him in at the Urban Sketchers Symposium in I think it was in I want to
Probably
say
Manchester.
no, I was thinking Portugal, but I could be
Really?
wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I don't remember now.
He's great. And again, super nice. All these sketchers around the world, you can just say, if you're going someplace, if you're going to Ottawa, you can contact sketchers in Ottawa and they'll all show up and sketch with you. It's just the most wonderful, gracious community. Then to bookend the book, so the first sketch in the book was the sketch from Varanasi, India. And the last one is a sketch that I did during the last days of the Daniel Smith store here in Seattle being open. It was the mothership. I went there all the time. I knew most of the employees. And it's a real loss that they closed during the pandemic. But I wanted to go and capture the place. And so I wrote, it's the title of the sketch is So Long, Seattle Daniel Smith Store. And I write, a love letter to the wonderful staff and store that closed during the pandemic. It was the beating heart of a global art community. They are truly missed. Thankfully, they continue to sell their paints, the best selling in the world. And they now use this space to make their paints. But really what this last page is about is the part where it says, so where to next? This book is just the tip of the iceberg. There's a whole world of many, many more incredible and inspiring sketchers out there for you to discover. So grab a pencil and paper and join in and start your own sketching adventures.
That's great. That's a great.
It's to inspire and also challenge people to, to go out and start sketching their own world. This is I included this because it's just, when you look at this and you kind of get a visual picture of how many contributors there were, and just imagine my spreadsheet.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Because I had the mother of all spreadsheets. I mean, in fact, I ended up with several mothers of all spreadsheets that were
You know
just,
how many contributors you had?
yeah, 156. Oh, you bet. I
Wow.
counted everyone.
Yeah. That's great. Is this the
Yeah,
back
from
page?
39 countries and over 700 images
Wow.
into 240 pages. So yeah, I love this back cover. This is a sketch from Jampel Cheda from Bhutan. Yes, there are urban sketchers in Bhutan.
Cool. Super cool.
Yeah, and I tried to mail him a sketchbook. It was going to cost over $100 in postage.
Wow. Wow.
Because if anybody ever goes to Bhutan, let me know and I'll send some art supplies for him, because he's a hard time getting art supplies.
Wow.
My
That's
sketch
crazy.
in the upper right of Dubrovnik, and below that is a sketch of Alvin Chong from Malaysia. That's his mother on her birthday.
Oh,
And he's a tattoo artist, probably one of the best in the world. He draws unbelievably well. Then, a fan favorite, Cherry Blaukoff, in the lower right-hand corner. And there's a section on Sherry's water sketches, about her technique for sketching water in the book. And then here's Martine, and I don't even venture to say her last name because my French is horrendous, but that's the sketch. I'm heartbroken that it's covered up by that barcode.
oh.
But that's the sketch of her feet and her jeans and her sketchbooks lying in the tub and sketching her bathroom during the pandemic.
Wow.
Then another one of my favorites, Santi Sales.
I love Santi. He's
Sketch
so
of,
sweet.
oh my God, he's such a character.
He's so sweet.
And a sketch of a dish of paella, which he's in Spain, and so paella would be the national dish of Spain probably.
Mhm.
And so anyway, that's kind of the back end of the book.
All
And
right.
there are so many more stories and sketches I could have talked about. I could do this all day. I know, Brenda, that would drive you nuts, but
Well, maybe we can
I
turn our
just love
cameras
it.
back on and we will have our draw.
Yeah. And I really want to thank everybody. Thank everybody for coming to this talk. And I hope you get the book. I hope you like the book. The book is really all about just the amazing world of urban sketchers.
It is a gorgeous, gorgeous book. And I don't know what the cost of the book is, but it's money well spent because this is a tome. This
Yeah.
is a huge book with
You know,
hundreds of examples.
when they sent me my artist copy, I donated my 10 author copies to other sketchers. But so I get one copy from the publisher. I'm going to have to buy all my other copies for people. But when they sent me this copy, I was so excited, and I opened it up, and the first thing I thought was, oh my God, it's huge. And I started flipping through it, and it just went on and on and on and on.
That was a lot of work.
I couldn't believe it. It was so much work.
I know. And I'm so excited because I got a copy. I'm so lucky. And now somebody else is going to get a copy.
Yeah, I wish I could stick my hand in that jar.
I know. I thought I should have given this job to Stephanie because I had to sit and cut out all.
And we know your devotion to your work.
I had to cut out a single slip for every single
Close your eyes and dig in there.
So anyway, I just want to say.
Wait, before you do that though, I wanted to ask, does anyone have any other questions?
Yeah, if you have questions, you can put them up there.
Yeah, any questions at all?
How do I get my cursor up there?
I think somebody asked if I would be teaching more Zoom online workshops. And my intent to do it is, I mean, I intend to do it. I was hoping to do it this month, but I have so much on my plate, especially with the book coming out and tons of work. And then I'm going to have to push it out a little bit. So I don't know. I'm thinking if I can manage it, I'll probably do a series of 3 classes in November. But yes, I'm hoping to do it again. I love doing it.
So John is saying, do the urban sketchers of the quality in this book use tools to make straight lines?
Some do. I do. I use a straight edge.
Yeah.
It's, part of my technique. I would say most don't. In fact, when I'm teaching workshops, I usually, hold up my triangle here. I hold up, not this one in particular, but I'll hold up a triangle and say, I anticipate the day I will be kicked out of Urban Sketchers because I use a straight edge.
Do you know what? I was very against straight edges, and I would tell my students, don't use a ruler, because people tend, if it's a ruler, they tend to start measuring. Oh,
Yeah.
This is 3/4 of an inch, this is 1/2 of an inch. And so I was like, banned all rulers for my students. But then, you know what? I went to your workshop in Seville, Stephanie, and since Seville, I've softened on that, because it does help sometimes to just be able to make a straight line with something.
Yeah, it's fast. Oh,
yeah.
that reminds me, you asked a question earlier. What did I learn from doing the book?
Yes.
Well, I learned a lot about connecting with people and writing books. Probably my favorite aspect was, in fact, connecting with people, because I remember one day sitting in this little office, sitting at my computer and thinking, oh my God, I just exchanged emails with people on 4 continents.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, that's incredible. So that was the most exciting part, that and getting the work and literally falling out of my chair, to see how beautiful it was from so many people. But I also got inspired by the work that I saw in the book.
Yeah.
And even on my last few trips, it's changed some of the aspects of the way I sketch. I'm drawing in more texture based on what I've seen various people do in ink. I've done more sketches where I leave the sky just white, which I really like because it feels very fresh and modern. And I got that from people in the book. I'm learning to edit my sketches more because, there are people who just do a fantastic job of eliminating all the fluff and just really capturing the essentials. And I think their sketches and the message in their sketches is stronger, and it speaks more specifically to their experience.
Yeah.
And then, it goes back to the experience thing again. It's just really confirmed that urban sketching really is about the experience, and that gives you a lot of wiggle room and a lot of leeway to draw anything. It doesn't have to be perfect or beautiful by any means. It's still capturing that experience in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes it powerful. So I loved doing this book. I hope my love for this book shows, and I hope other people love it too.
I think it does show. I mean, it was definitely a labor of love for you. All the hours you put into it is just really incredible. So yeah,
I'm so proud. My dream is to do a television show. So if anybody has any contacts, let me know. A television show where I travel the world and get to sketch and interview the people in this book. Like, I want to go to Bhutan and sit next to Jampel Cheda and talk to him about what he does, or go back to India and sit next to Ravi Gadre and talk to him about his sketches and what he does. And then I sketch, and then he sketches, and we look at them and we talk about them. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
You know what? That would be great. If you're looking for a producer, I could be interested in it.
Let's talk.
Yeah. So Karen says that was so inspiring and your enthusiasm is contagious.
Oh, that's
Super
really nice.
true.
Thank you, Karen.
And Lauren is asking for both Brenda and Stephanie, how do you split your time between sketching and being present in the environment that you are in? Well, I can answer that one. I think, when you're sketching, you are really present because most of the time people just walk through life. They just walk through life. There's stuff that's passing them by. You look at all the people. I was just in Venice, all the people walking past these gorgeous cathedrals and beautiful towers and all these things. And they walk by and they don't even look up. And I think when you're sketching, you are more in the moment than when you're not, because you're just really looking and focusing and taking it in and absorbing. And I noticed 10 years ago when I first started urban sketching myself, that suddenly I was just really noticing things all around me. Like you just become, I think, more aware of your surroundings. Yeah. That's how I would answer that question.
Yeah, I absolutely. I like to say that people see, but they don't see. Yeah. And as urban sketchers, I've accepted the fact that I may not get to see as much as other people, but what I see really well.
You do, and you're going to remember it a lot more when you sketch it. When you sketch it, you'll never forget that scene in front of you. Yep. Whereas I honestly, some of my beach vacations, they're all blended into one big beach vacation. I don't remember. Was that the Dominican or was that I don't know.
That's funny.
Michelle's asking, will there be a replay? Yes, we're recording right now, and I hope to get it up on the YouTube, on the Studio 56 for Creatives YouTube channel as soon as I can. And Eileen is asking if you'll be bringing books to Auckland.
Oh no, I can't carry them. They're too heavy, but they will for sure be selling them there. In fact, I did lug my book to Basel, Switzerland on my most recent trip in September. And I here, let's see, where am I going? I took the book and I want to get everybody all the people who are in the book to sign it.
Oh my goodness, you're not going to bring it on every trip you go on.
I am.
Oh, it's so heavy.
I got to meet Alex Hilkerts.
Yeah.
And had him took his picture with the book and he signed the book. Also,
and I'm going to be interviewing Alex Hilkerts as well on December. Yeah, he's
there. You go.
Last interview of the year. He is December the 6th. So if you haven't got a ticket for that, people should sign up for a ticket.
And also Inma Serrano did a little drawing of me.
Oh, in the book. Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah. So I'm going to lug this book and meet as many of these people as possible. I love them. I love their work. I wish I could do 3 more volumes of this, just quit my job and just keep doing this. Because there's so many sketchers, like there's so many that I just like. If I was lucky, I showed one sketch. I could have and should have done a spread or even more pages of their work. There's so many fantastic people out there.
Well, without further ado, I think it's time.
Close your eyes.
Pull something out. Yeah, no, I know. Well, you know what? There's 300 and something names in here. And so I'm just going to, I'm closing my eyes. You're all witnessing that my hand's reaching in the middle. Like I have nothing in my hand now, nothing up my sleeve. I'm reaching into the middle and I've got hold of, do I have one? Yes, I have got a hold of one name. And the name is someone, I'm going to cover up the email address, but I'll show you. It is Rhonda Lambatos.
Huh.
Rhonda Lambatos is the winner of our book, and she is from Colorado. And that's all I can tell you. I've got her email. I'm covering it up with my fingers. But
all right. Well, Rhonda, email me your address. I'll forward it to the publisher and they will mail you a copy.
Yeah. So exciting. Congratulations. And the crowd goes wild. Woo! That's so exciting. Well, Stephanie, thank you so much for
Oh,
chatting.
Brenda, thank you for the opportunity. I'm so excited to talk about this book. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Oh, and I just want to tell people that we have still a few tickets left for Mexico. Stephanie's going to be teaching in San Miguel de Allende, Mexico, January. And it's a gorgeous town. It's on everybody's bucket list. It's super
Lots of
safe.
color.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
super safe, very, very colorful town. And we're going to be there in January, and we would love it if you could join us. It's going to be super fun. Stephanie's teaching 5 art classes. And yeah, it's going to be really fun. So go to www.studio56boutique.com and click on the pull down menu, and you can pay your deposit there to hold your spot in the workshop. And should we tell them what we're working on next, Stephanie? Yeah. Okay. So in June, Stephanie is going to be teaching with Studio 56 in Oxford, Bath, and Stonehenge. That's where we're going in June. Super excited. I personally cannot wait to draw Stonehenge. That's the part I'm the most excited about, is getting a drawing of Stonehenge in my sketch.
Great. A pile of rocks.
I know it's a pile of rock, but I am going to sketch the hell out of that, and I'm really excited about
I know. And talk about a bucket list item.
I know.
Gosh.
That's right. Yeah. Stephanie, thank you so much. Thank
you, Brenda.
So wonderful to chat.
Thank you, everybody, for watching.
Yeah, it was super fun. Take care, everyone. Happy sketching. Bye for now.